In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am, letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes and see there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets me free. There is only love. When I lose myself, when I feel I've lost my way, when I go inside to quiet my mind, I hear Spirit gently say, there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets me free. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets me free. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets me free. There is only love.
Thank you, Michael. Beautiful. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Super Bowl Sunday. Sunday. I was wondering if I might be able to get a volunteer or two to help with something this morning. I would like to, we'll start with one person. So can I get somebody that feels reasonably able-bodied, like wouldn't mind coming up steps, feels like they are stable on their feet and reasonably strong? Do I have somebody that fits that reasonable description? Is there anybody? Dorothy. Awesome. Come on up here, Dorothy. So again, watch your step coming up. So, Dorothy, if you were going to rate yourself, say, on a strength scale from a 1 to a 10, where do you think you kind of fall on that strength scale?
8 or 9.
An 8 or 9. All right. Good for you. I want somebody that feels reasonably in that 8 or 9 category as well, about as strong as Dorothy, that thinks they could come up here and would be willing to come up here. Who might that be? Oh, I see right back there, Maria. All right, great.
Oh, cool.
Excellent. Now, as you're coming up, let me ask, are you both comfortable, there's hand sanitizer up here, are you both comfortable clasping each other's hands?
Sure.
Okay. And again, there's sanitizer here if you want it before and or after. So if you would come to center, think of this little stand here as a center mark. You're going to face each other. And I want you to cross hands and clasp hands. There you go. There you go. You want a good grip. A good grip. Because you're, what's that?
You only asked about strength.
Not coordination, right? So I've got some cash money here. These are fives, just so you know. So I'm going to give you like 6 seconds to try to pull the other person past this center mark. They have to get past that wooden stand. You should be able to see it through the acrylic there right at the podium. So pull them past, and you get $5. You can pull them past. Wait. Wait until I say go. If you can pull them past more than once, you can get more than just the 5. But you got 6 seconds. All right.
This isn't fair to you.
Are you both ready? On your mark, get set, go. 2, 3, 4, 5. She. Oh! I will count that she wasn't quite past in the 6 seconds, but close enough. There's your $5.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Give them a big round of applause, and get the hand sanitizer there if you want. All right. So, nice. $5. $5 won, fair and square.
Come to Unity and YouTube.
Right. So, I had about $50 on me. Why didn't they get more than $5 out of me? Was that?
You didn't want to give it to them.
Oh, I would have if they had pulled somebody more than once across. Why could they not pull anybody more than once past that mark?
They didn't try.
Oh, she was trying.
They were nothing but just fine. But I didn't go back.
You didn't go back, right? There wasn't time. Why wasn't there time? Let me reframe this. What was the resistance? They were both pulling in opposite directions. If you had both just said, hey, we're Unity folks, you pull me across, I'll let you pull me across, we're like, here, you could have gotten a whole bunch more money.
Both of them.
Both of you could have gotten, you could have walked away with Ed Trout's money. We had Ed Trout's money. But we settled for $5 because I want to win. I told you you could win more than once, and I didn't specify there could only be one winner, right? But there was a short time frame. So you would have had to have worked really quickly together to make that happen. We don't do that. Why don't we do that? This conditioning, right? There's only love. There's a story that has been floating around the internet for years. I've read it multiple times. I could not find an original source for it. I found it going back decades. Nobody claims to be the original other than people more recently, who obviously did not write it. But I'm going to share the gist of the story. There's a farmer who grows excellent corn. Every year, that farmer wins the prize for the best corn in the county. And there's a journalist who, after years and years of this, finally decides to interview that farmer and find out the secret. So the interviewer asks, what is your secret for growing this great corn and winning that prize every year? And the farmer said, well, I take my best seed corn and I share it with my neighbors. And the journalist said, that doesn't make any sense. You are trying to grow the best corn, so you're sharing your best seed. How does that make sense? And the farmer said, don't you understand how it works? With the wind and pollination, the wind is going to pick up pollen from the neighboring fields and cross-pollinate. And if they're growing inferior corn, it is going to degrade my crops. So in order for me to have the best crops, I have to ensure that my neighbors also have their best crops. Right? What a concept. In order for me to live my best life, I have to ensure that my neighbors are also living their best life. It's a tough thing, though, especially when the world wants to tell you otherwise. When the world says, hey, it's Super Bowl Sunday, there's only one winner, right? The world's a competition. I was looking over, as occasionally we do, looking over websites from other Unities. And in Unity of Columbus, Ohio, I liked how they had presented Unity's 5 principles. For some in this room, these principles are second nature. We've heard them 1,000 times. For those that are newer, they may be less familiar. So, Unity's first principle. For Unity of Columbus, Ohio, they start with the basic phrase, God is. And go on to explain that God is good, God is omnipresent, God is this creative force in the universe, but God is everywhere and in everything and ultimately working toward good. The second one, they simplify to I am. But then that is summing up the concept that because God is everywhere and all good, God is in me. And that goodness of God is in me. The indwelling Christ is in me. The third one they simplify to I think. And that concept is my thoughts create my reality. The thoughts I allow to go through my head and the ones that I nurture and put forward are the ones that create the world in which I live. If I want to see a competitive world, I will have a competitive world. But if I think there's a world of cooperation, I will start seeing that world of cooperation. My thoughts create the life I live. The fourth one, they simplify to I pray, because that's where we take our thoughts and we convey them in communication with that divine aspect, with divine mind. So I use affirmative prayer to channel those thoughts in coordination with divine mind toward the positive. And then listen in silence. Go into that meditative silence to also listen back to the universe. And then the final step, they simplify to I live. We can know all of the unity truths and principles that we want, and if they stay in here and never go out into the world, we are not making a difference. You've got to live the life that you are creating out in the world. For me, for my own purposes, I also added some mudras to these, just to help me, some gestures to go along. And in fact, a couple are very reminiscent of ones that Reverend Susan Boatwright had used. So it does start with God is. Feel free to follow along. As with all things, try it. If it works for you, that is great. And if it doesn't, you can give it up. But try it for a while. Try it for, 3 weeks, 21 days. So hands in the air, gesturing up and out, showing them the magnitude of God is. And then you bring that in because it's indwelling. So I am. Then for the I think, I specifically use these 2 fingers at my temple. In mudras, the fingers specifically are elements. So these are the elements of the heavens and the earth. So your middle finger and your ring finger, uniting heaven and earth. I think. I think. Down here to I pray. And then I live. Right? So God is. I am. I think. I pray. I live. For me, being able to embody those things is just a lovely reminder. It makes it very immediate for me to take it beyond just concept and give me something else to play with in my toolbox. There's also, looking at that made me also evaluate the progression, because Unity recognizes there's a progression of everything starts with mind, right, with divine mind, the God mind, and then comes to thought. So if we start with the mind, and then thought, and then the final stage is expression, right? Everything starts that way. In the beginning was God. And then from God, this thought of creation, and then the actual creation. And it's really right there in those principles as well. God is an I am. That's all talking about divine mind. There's this broad divine mind that exists, and it's an indwelling part of me. And then that mind comes up with concept, starts getting thought articulated. and I think and I pray, but those things tend to still be internal until the final expression. So mind to thought to expression. God, spirit, body. Mind, spirit, body. The author Pam Grout, I read an article of hers. If you're not familiar, she wrote the book E Squared, amongst many others, but that was her most famous book. I was reading an article of hers on A Course in Miracles. And she said that for all of the wordiness that A Course in Miracles is known for, because it's known to be a very wordy tome, she said ultimately it comes down to a single choice of, are you choosing love or are you choosing fear? Love or fear? She also went on to articulate that fear, as many of us have come to know it, is an acronym for false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. Fear is illusory. It is not real. The love is what is real. And when we can remember that, it makes it much easier to deal with, as she put it in her article, the bozos out there who may challenge us, because we realize they are either expressing love or they are expressing a need to connect to love. Now, that is not to say that if there's an abusive situation, you just go, oh, they're just needing love. No, there are still things that you remove yourself from if it's not healthy. But when you're looking at sources of it, it's either an expression of love or an expression of a need for love. We get into this idea of suffering, right? Our ego gets in the way all the time, because that's how we show up in the world. The ego is a necessary thing for interacting with the world, but it doesn't always work in our best interest, our best mental interest, our best spiritual interest. There's only love. Love that heals, love that sets me free. Only love. And it's not a selfish love. Like the farmer with the corn, it's a giving love that also ensures that those around me are living their best. Booker T. Washington said, if you want to lift yourself up, lift someone else up. If you want to lift yourself up, and who doesn't, lift someone else up. And I know sometimes we find ourselves at that lowest tide, right? We're in the dark night of our own soul, and you're thinking, how can I lift somebody else up when I myself am currently so low? It doesn't take much. Smile at a stranger. Offer a compliment. Give somebody $5 for a ridiculous task, right? Find a way to lift somebody else up. If you want to lift yourself up, lift someone else up. A rising tide raises all boats, correct? A funny coincidence, but of course there are no coincidences. I was thinking about making reference to the story Stone Soup today, because it's about community in many ways. But I wasn't sure about including it. And then Michael and I did an online retreat yesterday, separately but together. We were in separate places, but we were on the same retreat. And a large chunk of that retreat centered around Stone Soup. And I thought, okay, I guess I'm supposed to go ahead and talk about it. Just so I know where I'm starting with, who is familiar with the story, or a version of the story of Stone Soup? So about half of you. Okay, I'll try to bring everybody up to a basic speed on it. So, typically presented as a children's story. There are 3 soldiers, and this is a common version, but there are other versions. 3 soldiers that are on their way to a village and they're looking for food and shelter, and the villagers know that the soldiers are on the way, and they're like, oh, they're going to eat everything we have, they're going to take what we have, so let's hide all of our provisions. We'll hide everything. And so when the soldiers got there, everybody that they went to said, we really don't have anything to share, we have no food to give. So the soldiers, after going to all of the houses around, said, well, okay, that's fine. We're used to being on the road without food, we'll make some stone soup. We just need a big pot and some water and a fire. And everybody was very intrigued by this. Stone soup. Well, yes, and then we need 3 round stones. So they added water and stones to this big kettle on the fire and started heating it up and talking about how good it smelled. But, you know, it would really be great if they could add a carrot. But, you know, they didn't have any, so no use asking. So I said, well, I have a carrot. I can give you a carrot. And bit by bit, they go through all the things that would make the soup a little bit better, but they know nobody has it. Nobody has the onions. Nobody has any beef to add. And by the time they're done, there's this huge pot of wonderful soup fit for a king that everybody in the village has contributed to and everybody feasts off of. There are so many little nuggets and stories within this and ways to analyze that story. But for me, it gets right to the heart of what I'm looking at here today is, as a community, how do we come together? How do I look at what I can give, even when I feel like I don't have enough to share, right? But I can give something. In Deepak Chopra's book, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, when he talks about things like, if you visit a home, take them something. He said, you may feel like you have nothing to give. Give them a poem, something. You can always give something of yourself. It doesn't have to be tangible. But tangible is great to work up to, right? Because the world revolves around tangibility. There is science, by the way, behind helping other people as well. For those of you that are very science-minded, I know we get a lot of science-minded folks in here. I tend to be one of them too. And there are lots of studies. I've got lots of figures here on my paper. I don't necessarily want to read a whole bunch of scientific things, but there was a lovely article. It was in a site called Uplift by Azriel Rachel, and it was called We Rise by Lifting Others. And there's just a whole chunk of it about all of these studies that showed how when people are giving, it elevates their pleasure centers. It does all of these things that help us as individuals simply by giving. Like when we give somebody money, it makes us as happy as if we had received the money. When we see people getting money, it makes us happy as if we had received, right? That whole concept of it's better to give than to receive is not just some lovely platitude. There's actual scientific evidence to say, no, giving is great for you. It's a lovely way to show up in the world. And it's contagious, right? You start getting that feeling, and then you want more, and then you see somebody do that, and so then you do it and pay it forward, and people start giving more and more when they see it shown by example. We are that example. We are what the world needs. We live in the world, and it is up to us to show in that leadership, this is how we are meant to be in the world. We want to start that ripple effect. We want to be the pebble that starts that ripple. If you want to lift somebody else up, lift yourself up. If you want to lift yourself up, lift somebody else up. Strike that, reverse it. So, God is, I am, I think, I pray, I live. I want to go back to the daily word from today, compassion. The bit of scripture at the end of that, and I'll read that out. When he went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion for them and cured their sick. And that sounds, oh, that's great. Jesus is going and curing people. Well, I want to give a little more context to that. It's Matthew 14, and we remember John the Baptist, right? John the Baptist, who was Jesus' cousin. John had been imprisoned by Herod and then was decapitated, executed. John's followers took the body, and after they had taken the body and buried it, they told Jesus, When Jesus found out that his cousin had been executed, he took a boat and went to find seclusion. So here's somebody who has just had a significant loss of someone that was meaningful to them and related to them, and he goes off on a boat for seclusion. I'm not going to go into deep metaphysics with this story. Michael did such a beautiful deep dive of metaphysics last week. But the one thing I do want to touch on metaphysically is bodies of water generally represent the mind. So this would essentially equate to going within, pulling in for that seclusion because one is in grief. And yet, in trying to go into the mind, into seclusion because of grief, what does he find? Oh, here's a crowd that found out where I was and found me. There's no anger, there's no resentment. There's looking at the crowd and realizing they need healing. And so he healed. That's followed by his followers coming to him to saying, it's getting late. We need to send these people into town so they can go eat because it's getting too late. And Jesus said, no, we will feed them. And they said, well, how can we? We've only got 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. He said, bring them to me. And he blessed them and broke them and fed 5,000 men plus women and children. So that's the context where that compassion shows up. In the midst of deep hurt and grief, compassion. It's a lovely model. It's something for me to remember and try to hold on to, because it's hard. It is a challenge for all of us in those moments to remember your well-being is tied up with mine. And if I'm hurting, I still need to make sure that you are living your best life. God is. God is. I am. That is inside me. And I think, right, and feel. And then I pray and align with divine mind and listen to divine mind and affirm what I know to be true. And then I live. I take it out into the world. And I also love the fact that we know very well, scripturally, and we believe it, God is love. That works with the rest of those little nuggets of the 5 principles as well. God is love. I am love. I think love. I pray love. And I live love. Because love is all there is. And so it is.